Hello, everyone. Welcome to another interview on the Rivalry CS channel. I am Richard Lewis in an empty room in the United Kingdom after having traveled across the Atlantic during a global pandemic. And that now means that I'm going to be making content again for Rivalry, and that will take the form of interviews. I had to get an old friend to help me out at the last minute because no one likes to talk to me. So, fortunately, we've been able to get Josh Steele Nissan. That's having a bit of a renaissance in Counter-Strike lately with his team Chaos. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I hope your stuff arrives safe and sound. I heard you talking about how it's cost it's things upwards of like $60,000 or something, and the other stuff that's like sentimental value. It's like priceless. So all your books.
Yeah, an entire lifetime collection of books for starters.
Yeah,
Like rare shit, all my esports memorabilia and all the memories
yeah,
attached to it. And it's in a shipping crate on a boat that's getting
somewhere.
battered by 80-foot waves right now. And,
Oh shit.
yeah, I used to have a friend who worked in those shipping, like at the docks, bringing those shipping
Mhm.
containers in, and they just go missing all the time. So fingers crossed, I guess. Could be worse. I could be having the Brazilians on me. Oh wait, I do. Okay, but we'll get to those. We'll get to that in a second. First thing I want to ask you about is obviously there was a realistic chance we wouldn't be doing this interview for a Counter-Strike channel at all. It could have been a Valorant channel we would be doing this interview for because there was a lot of serious considerations on your part about quitting Counter-Strike, moving across to the new game being developed by Riot. So, how close did you actually come to taking the plunge?
I got unofficial offers to switch, but I don't think the timing was right. I think if I were to switch, I would want to get a feel for it first. I would want to like actually play in scrims, play in a tournament, see if you know, even if I like Counter-Strike more, I'd need to like Valorant enough to want to switch, right? So I think the closest was careful consideration, but not like, yeah, how do I get out of this situation with chaos? I'm trying to leave you guys by. It's more like down the road, I might. I want to see if I like it first before I decide anything at all.
I think a lot of people were fantasizing about the iBuyPower, reunion happening in this new game because obviously a lot of the names from that team were all kind of already heading over there, and had already made their intentions clear, given the kind of unreasonable stance that we've had from Valve surrounding the permanent ban. So I think a lot of people had fingers crossed that you would, maybe hook up with Swag again or AZK or whoever it was going to be. Did you talk to those guys at all about it?
No, I think I haven't spoken to them about this at all, but there's a reason why the team didn't work out in 2014, and there's a reason why the reiteration with Days, Swag, AZK in CSGO in 2017 didn't work, and it's why it didn't work with me, Swag, and AZK. And I think we just know without even having to talk about it that whether it's our playstyle, our philosophies, personalities, whatever, it's just not going to work. So they didn't reach out to me. I didn't reach out to them. I wish them good luck, but it's not going to work. And just to regroup because there was something that we had 6 years ago, it's like at this point, it's like, is that really enough in this landscape?
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes you're better off not trying to revisit it, and you guys kind of already did a little bit, but then there's the cynical aspect of it that the marketing would have been insane, loads of attention.
Yeah, but I'm 30. I'm not here to, if I wanted to make money, I would gone full-time streaming years ago and stayed to it. I want to win something. That's why I would want to switch to Valorant, right? Because
Oh,
in CS, it's like I can win something. We won Mythic League, we won Winners League and we won MDL back to back to back within like a 2 week period of time.
mm.
Like it's not, it's you know.
Yeah,
I want to.
I know what you mean. Listen, I get it. It's kind of fucked up and weird the way the landscape's kind of played out in the sense that there's more money outside of the majors. This is what I don't understand. Like maybe I'm missing something, so perhaps you can explain it to me. But it seems to me that if I acquire steel for my organization, I get what is in my belief the best in-game leader in sort of the modern era of North American Counter-Strike, I get a player who, despite being 30 years old, still somehow manages to frag and be an in-game leader. I get a very dedicated player that draws up a playbook. I get a guy who's got an eye for talent and has provably scouted young players time and time again because he's had to, because that's who he's been sort of relegated to playing with. It seems to me that, like, well, if I get to have that for every other tournament in Counter-Strike except 2 majors a year, why the fuck wouldn't I do that?
I think 2 years ago and when I was on Ghost last year, it definitely didn't make sense to me why orgs would go down that route, because it was just like the major was an isolated event type of thing. But I think now with like the landscape changing, with ESL doing Pro League, which is more exclusive, and then Flashpoint being more exclusive, there's less opportunities to kind of make it into Pro and then stay there. Like if we were to qualify for Pro, there's no guarantee that we'd stay there the following season. Same thing with Flashpoint. We qualified for Flashpoint. We made playoffs, but we might need to requalify to make it back in there.
Right.
And that kind of degree of uncertainty for a team that's going to, if they want to buy into Flashpoint for $2 million or whatever the buy-in is, it's like, well, they could do that, but they're not even going to have, like, they're going to invest that much money into CS and not even have like a major bound team, right? And then the other thing is things that I used to be able to play in have now become like Road to Rio Major or whatever, Road to the Major. So CSSummit, which I've previously been able to participate in, was a Road to Rio event. And because of that, I couldn't participate in that. There was another ESL event earlier in the year that I couldn't participate in. So with kind of like the landscape shifting and changing, and there's no guarantees about anything, I think it makes it like a big question mark for orgs wanting to be like, yeah, like in the past it makes sense, but now it's like.
Let's talk a little bit more about Valorant just before we get back into Counter-Strike chat. I mean, the game, I'm sure you played it. I was there in the beta. I'll be frank. I gave it a review where I said, it's got potential. It definitely needs some work. It definitely needs some balancing. They borrowed wholesale from Counter-Strike without truly beating it in any of the areas they've copied it from. Maybe hit registration feels a bit nicer.
There's a few things. There's a few things that they've done right.
Well, what do you think they are?
I think the game feels like smoothness and just like FPS. Those types of things are way better than Counter-Strike. I think like Counter-Strike, if you have like your latest generation AMD or Intel, like the top of the line chip, I think you can play the game with like 300 plus FPS, not drop. But the PC I'm using, it's like a little LAN box I built 5 years ago. And I built it so that I could take it to BYOCs. I can transport it everywhere. I can lift it up on my shoulder, lift up my monitor, and just go somewhere with a backpack of my peripherals. And I'll have to do like multi-trips. So it's got a 6700K, which is old. It's dated. But like in Valorant, I'm still popping 300 FPS off. And in CS, I'm dropping like sub 100 in certain situations, certain maps. And, when your frame rate is varying so wildly and it's dropping, you're going to feel like the input lag with the mouse. You're going to feel issues with when you're like trying to control a spray. And in Valorant, those issues don't exist. Now, they have a whole other set of issues like RNG bloom when it comes to shooting, and you just have to cross your fingers, get on your knees and pray. But there are things that they did right. Like if you miss buy, you can sell it. Dropping teammates is so much easier. You just click the button, and the buy menu makes so much more sense. It's not designed for Xbox wheel or whatever. So there are things that they did well, and I still consider it to be like 80% CS.
Yeah, I mean, the when we talk about its DNA, it is undoubtedly like majority of it is Counter-Strike, a little bit of Overwatch sprinkled in, maybe a bit of Rainbow Six. It's a hybrid, but it's very easy for Counter-Strike players to pick up. With that in mind, I mean, let's say you were to make the switch. Do you think instantly you would go into the upper echelons of this burgeoning competitive Valorant scene?
I don't think it would take very long for any CS player that played at a high level to transition over. I think right now at the top, you don't really have any one big contender that's just like smashing everything.
Mm.
Anybody that you would say is like this is the best team right now, they'll just like fall to some random team. T1's lost to complete like a pug put together the week before. TSM's lost. Sentinels won this last thing, but they were losing everything else. Cloud9 like how they got second, but like before that, it's results are all over. And another thing is like a lot of these teams that are being put together are teams from like there's MDL players that literally like never made a season of playoffs in MDL. There's players that are on teams or like full teams of MDL, like maybe top 8 MDL that are sitting there in like the top 10 teams of NA Valorant right now. It's like these guys they couldn't make it in CS, and I guess the way that I can uh, kind of argue it is if EG, Liquid, 100 Thieves, and Gen G all switched over from CS to Valorant right now, like we wouldn't be talking about TSM and Sentinels and
Yeah.
Cloud9 and those guys. Like it just wouldn't even be a conversation. They would get absolutely put down.
So why is that then? Because the way I look at it is that while I expect certain transferable skills to just go across, if you're a good aimer, you're going to go in, you're going to immediately feel at home playing Valorant if you've got a good history in Counter-Strike. But the tactical aspect of things, I think that actually Counter-Strike tacticians, well, they should be lacking in a lot of areas. I mean, I've said before on the Discord where all the pros lurk. I think eventually, the Overwatch players that are going to leave that fucking god awful failing Overwatch league are going to come into their own and actually do some damage. And I don't think Counter-Strike players are going to see it coming because I think they have an awareness of like timings around abilities and how to use certain things and stuff
I
like that.
I agree, and I was thinking about this, like especially when I was playing in beta, that I felt like Counter Strike players definitely at the start would have the upper edge, but that we could see them getting eclipsed by players that came from other games because, like, for example, if I'm playing Valorant and I'm playing Counter Strike at this, like I'm a Counter Strike player still, so I'm thinking Valorant like a Counter Strike player. I want to play this corner and set up this crossfire with this teammate because it's really strong.
Yeah.
This ability flashes me through the wall. I can't turn from it. This ability, you know, gives wall hack. There's nothing I can do. I have to give away my position to destroy this drone flying in, or this Roomba, driving at me, vacuuming my feet, or this arrow that's flying across the map and landing on the wall that tells them where I am. I have to give away my position. But beyond that, there's other abilities. Like you have to consider like ultimates as well, and you have to kind of keep a track of ultimate economy. Can I play this corner here because this guy has a laser beam that's going to blast me through the wall across the map?
Yeah.
Can if I'm playing planting the spike and I'm trying to like play the clutch out, like I have to carefully consider like where can I play this from? Do they have their ultimate? Like what abilities do they have left? And it's a lot harder than counting like 5 smokes, 5 mollies. Maybe it's because it's like counting nades in CS has become more second nature. It's something that like over time you just don't think about consciously, and it's something you just know intuitively. Oh yeah, they're out of nades, or he might have smoke, or they're low buy, probably doesn't have kit, and you just take those risks. Maybe that's something that develops naturally in Valorant if you play over time. But right now, the CS brain is like, yeah, these are good spots in CS, and then in Valorant it just doesn't work. And I
Yeah.
think that if you're coming from CS, you're definitely going to be in CS mode and not really think outside the box when it comes to, I guess, gimmick type plays. When it comes to doing like full tactic, like execution type strategies. When it comes to clutching rounds, I think there's a lot of things that if you're locked in CS mode and you can't think outside the box, think of it from like an Overwatch or Rainbow Six perspective, or another game that I'm not thinking of, then you're gonna get eclipsed by someone else that is more creative because there is a lot more room for things, especially with like an agent pool that's gonna keep expanding.
You obviously spent some time playing Overwatch. Do you feel like you might have an edge from anything you picked up over there?
Not really. I again, like the game's 80% CS, so I think
Mm.
anything that you would get from Overwatch, it's like it's hard because Overwatch like they have shields and weird stuff too.
Yeah.
I would say like I would say probably not. My time in Overwatch was limited. It was years ago, and I was just straight up bad. So I don't think there's like anything for me to kind of like hang on to, because there's also like the meta of the time was just like you get your Reaper ult, you get your Ana ult, and then you just send in your Beyblade, and that was the meta for like a
Yeah.
third of the time I played that game, and then you can't really do much of that. Like yeah, you can use Raze, Satchel, big BFG or whatever, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
So yeah.
so have you sort of made any intimations? Because like I know in Overwatch there was that weird thing where it was always kind of I don't know if it was implied or like straight up said, but kind of I think wasn't it back channel behind the scene? People were like, "Oh, we don't know if we want Steele to be like a drafted player because of his past." Whereas over in Valorant, it seems that it's just like to Riot's credit, they haven't made any judgments about any players. Many of whom have got issues.
So when it came to the World Cup, this wasn't even Overwatch League. This is well before Overwatch League was even a
Yeah.
thing. Um, I know that I wasn't like one of the nominations for the Canadian team, despite being like a larger streamer at the time of Overwatch, or I guess like, comparatively speaking.
Hmm.
I was a competitor in it. I played it daily. I had a following. AZK, I think I don't. It's been so long that I don't want to like mix anything up, but
Sure.
I think someone told him that because of his past, he would not be considered for the Canadian team either. And I wasn't outright told anything, especially like from Blizzard directly, but just like the fact that all these other people that were like that I knew of, and then random people that I literally never have even heard of were like all nominees, but I was just like somehow off that list. I'm like, okay, I think there's something weird, and it's just not being talked about publicly for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So there was good intimation, and like I had heard from other people that this was the case.
Hmm.
So while I have nothing directly from the source, it's
Hmm.
a pretty good judgment.
It
Yeah.
seems likely.
Yeah.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about the Counter-Strike stuff and how things have been going. Obviously, it's been a pretty crazy journey. You said there you were on Ghost. Things looked to be headed in the right direction at one point, and then for whatever reason, that team kind of seemed to fall apart. Despite some pretty decent performances, and you took a big scalp or two, and then you find yourself in Chaos. And we've gone through various iterations of the Chaos team, but I thought I'd just ask you a little bit about kind of how you stumbled across this organization and had the opportunity to kind of build a team within that org. Was it like, did you already know the people? Did they approach you?
So in my time off after Ghost, after my contract ended and before Chaos started, I was speaking to other players that were also teams that were looking to make moves. So, for example, I was speaking to Rush, and we were like considering players like Smooya and NATO Safex. Rush wanted like, for example, Infinite, so we were talking like with Infinite, and we wanted Hydrex, so we're talking to Hydrex, and Native Safex didn't pan out. Rush was like poach, not poach, but like he got an offer from Complexity. He's like, yeah, I can't turn this one down. Bye. So it was me, Infinite, Hydrex, and we're looking for two other people. And originally, I received an email from Chaos about like working with something, and Rush had also received one individually. So when we're talking to each other, we're like, oh, Chaos is talking to you, and they're also talking to me. Let's see if we can do something together for them. And then there was in Toronto, where I was living after, like obviously that's where I'm from. The like, CEO of Chaos was in town, and investors and a few other people, and they're like, "Yeah, we're in town. We're at this bar. Can you
Mhm.
come?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's like a 10-minute walk away from me. I'll be there soon." So I walked there, and we chatted a bit, and they're like, yeah, let's make something happen. So that's how kind of like I got into Chaos, and then the original roster kind of we ended up with like what Whippy and I think the first iteration was also with Ben Leet,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just like at the time we, like Whippy couldn't even, be actually picked up by Chaos. So
Yeah.
because of his student visa situation, he's not allowed to play, or he's not allowed to like be salaried or anything.
Yeah.
So we didn't have like anyone else really in the scene at the time that we could play with, and we kind of played around his schedule because he had classes and all this other stuff. So our practice schedule was kind of like here and there. We played with Sheikh Zula, which was our coach. We played with him for MDL because we needed 2 out of the 5 players, and the situation with everything was just like sloppy, just because we were trying to put together one thing, and it ended up being like, okay, well, let's put together something. We had that something for a while, and then like this player left and this player came in, and because this player came in and he didn't want this guy already left, and then we got someone else in, and then this guy wasn't good enough, so we got someone else in, and it was just like a constant shuffle of the roster for a really, really, really long time. And despite everything, like we had some decent results, we had some upsets here and there, we qualified for
Sure. Yeah.
Flashpoint
Yeah.
by the skin of our teeth, but we made it. So we ended up getting somewhere, but we were still like always just, it was just like all over the place. Our results, our roster, we had no consistency. Like I forgot, like if I talk about like strategy with like this iteration with the roster, and I wouldn't show like these other guys, I'm like, can you guys do this smoke? Like, what? You never showed us this. I'm like, what are you talking about? I showed this like 8 times. It's like, well, not with us. It's like, oh, well, I've had like 20 teammates in the last, year, whereas the past like 6 years before that, I've had like maybe 10 teammates total. So it's like it's a huge difference. But now that we finally settled on some stability with the current roster, we've had it for I think around 3 months at this point,
Mm-hmm.
um, and we've actually had time to practice. I think we're headed in a really good direction right now with our just stability, our performance. Like our playbook is expanding now that we have time to actually add things and practice them, dry run them, and I think that we'll be able to do a little bit better now as compared to the last blast, DreamHack, and whatever other event we had. There's a third event. I don't remember right now though.
Well, so one of the big players that sort of came through the chaos revolving door that was going on was obviously Smooya, who was played, I think, for you in Flashpoint
Yeah.
temporarily, and it was a high profile signing in a lot of ways. This was a guy that had a lot of good pedigree, but just sort of had these personality issues seemingly that had, reared their head and prevented him kind of like staying in big, which it was a team he'd done really well in. But I always got the impression that when he left, despite being a big loss just in terms of talent, I got the impression you guys weren't necessarily too sad to see him go. It didn't seem like I'm being real. Like there wasn't a big outpouring of like big sads on Twitter or anything. There wasn't people saying, "Oh, as soon as this visa situation is resolved, you're going to be straight back in the team, brother." There was just none of that. It was just like, "Yeah, thanks for playing for us, man." And
I yeah. So Smooya is like, he's very, very skilled at the game. Like individually, talent wise, he's like one of the best players I've personally played with. He spends a lot of time in deathmatch and like KZ maps for practicing his movement, practicing his aim. He watches a lot of demos. He brings a lot of ideas, a lot of like good positive traits to the table. However, he's he has a specific type of personality that's difficult to work with. Like you need to know kind of like, I'm getting this type of person, and I need to know how to interact with them, manage them, and make it so that it works. And I think I guess one of the mistakes I made with him was that I didn't tell him to shut the fuck up. And because of that, I think there was like this I don't think he respected me as much. Maybe he had like a prior to joining the team, maybe he had this like um prejudice or misconception or something about me, like, oh, I'm old, maybe I'm just here for money now, or maybe I don't care as much, I'm not going to put in time or whatever. So maybe he came in like already thinking like, oh, I'm just going to come here, make lots of money, play FPL, get like 1.4 rating, and then go and join a better team, like a stepping stone,
Yeah.
right? I feel like he had that in the back of his mind. So when we had our interactions throughout the months, that even though we did perform well and we did upset teams, like we beat MIBR on LAN in the opening stage of Flashpoint,
Yep.
and I think despite all that success, I think at the back of his mind, it was always like a temporary thing. It was a stepping stone. He's just here for a little bit, and then he's going to end up going anyways. And I think like, you know, the way that he's very like set in his routine and does things a certain way. So if he learned to do something at big a certain way, and he thought that way was really good, he would want to change how we do things, whether it be a team thing.
Yeah.
So it could be something to do with like how we run practice, the practice schedule. It could be like tactics. It could be in-game things like call outs, or this style or that style, or how we play our game. Or it could be with how chaos management does stuff, how our social media managers wanted to do stuff, or how do we put out content, or how we talk about how content's being put out. And I think because he had all these ideas and wanted things done certain ways, or like this and didn't like that, and if he didn't like that, he acts a certain way. I think because of all of that, there was a lot of strain on his relationship with individual players and with the actual chaos management. I think because of all things factored in, I think that's why it was just like, okay, there is this pandemic that's about to unfold. There is this visa thing. Yeah, the offices are closed. You can't renew your visa and stuff. Okay, well, that's it. And we just like went our separate ways. And
Yeah.
I don't think he was particularly disturbed by it. I don't think any of the players. I think we just wanted to just move on and just figure something out to like, how do we progress, and how do we, what do we take away from the situation? Did we learn anything? Did it help us like with our own individual play? Does it help us like understand? It's like a relationship with a person, right? You don't just like go out and the first person you meet that says hi back, you just like instantly marry, right?
Well,
It's
I'd have to do that now. I think, like, I think I'm running out of options very rapidly. So.
Oh boy. But like you'll have a relationship, whether it's a few weeks, a few months, a few years. Like you learn about yourself, you learn about what you want from a partner, right? It's the same thing in Counter-Strike. Like it's still interpersonal relationships where it's like I know more about like what I want from the game. I know what I want from teammates. I know um, what direction I want to go in. And you just have to look back and take what you learn from the situation and then be better in the future. And that's the only thing you can do in life really about anything. And we moved on.
It's so weird actually because I'm looking at the roster. I was like making my notes. Like you are the longest standing player on the roster.
I'm
Like
the only one that originally signed.
yes, everyone
Yeah.
else been and gone. You've had like so many players come in and out, so many stand-ins. But you're right. You seem to have found this kind of consistency with the two pickups you made in June, which is obviously Leaf coming in full time and John G coming in full time. I think both had been trials or stand-ins at various points. But I got to ask just about sort of the talent. I mean, they're all pretty young guys. Like, I mean, we've got a lot of young players, and it's you're playing with like actual kids in some cases, like Leaf.
Yeah.
It's kind of I don't know. I mean, like, how do you feel about like overall? You played with like some of the best talent NA's produced. How do you feel about this roster and the way it's come together? Is this like, is there another evolution of Chaos to come, or is pretty much, this is the team actually you're feeling pretty good about, and actually, yeah, you know what? If you could have picked this right at the start, this is what you would have took.
This is the team. I guess the way I look at it as an analogy is like the closest that I've had to the CS Source style teams where it's like in CS Source, if you were lacking, if you like, there's no salary.
Mm.
The biggest event at the time is like ESE Invite. You go there, you pay for your flights, the hotels, everything out of pocket. You win first place, it's $4,000. Divided up by the 5 people, it's $800 each.
Mm-hmm.
Take away the $500 for the flight and $300 for the hotel. Breaking even, boys. Like
Yeah.
you know, um, so you don't get to slack off. You don't get to muck about. You're there. If you're not good enough, you're gone. If you're late for stuff, you're gone. If you're not talking, you're not contributing, you're gone. Like people that are literally not even making money from this and putting in this much time and everything, like you need to put up or get out. And this is the closest to that, and not only in like uh more in the respect of like everyone's providing input,
Mm-hmm.
everyone's talking about things, everyone's got like a perspective or point of view, and no one's afraid to just like, if someone makes a mistake, no one's afraid to be like, I can't tell this guy he made a mistake here because this is going to happen, right? Like everyone's talking to each other and is open about things and contributes to the team in some form, whether it be perspective about this or ideas about that, or this strat isn't working. And I think that's been what's been missing in a lot of other teams or rosters that I've played in, and where there would be like one player that's afraid to speak up, or one player that's just like slacking off, or one player that's doing this or that. So I think this is the closest to like those old torqued rosters, even in like beginning of CS:GO or whatever, that I've been in CS:GO.
What about the talent overall? Like the skill ceiling, because these are players, dude. Like I'm not gonna lie, like I don't know how the fuck you keep finding these guys over and over again. Because every time I see a name join the Chaos roster, I'm like, who the fuck's this guy? I'm full Conor McGregor on that motherfucker, you know. And
Yeah,
then they go out and they're legit. I mean, I knew like Vanity. But I think by the time like we start talking about Zeppa and Leaf and John G, I'm like scratching my head thinking, like who are these guys, and why is Josh playing with them, and how good can they really be? And then actually having watched a lot of Chaos recently, certainly since June, since this lineup come together, I think I've watched pretty much every series you've played in. It's like you've actually found some like really solid talent, and actually I'd say some talent that probably deserves a bit more recognition
yeah,
than some of the other talent that we've talked about in the scene. That's maybe even been around a little bit longer. I think some of these players are way out in front. I think Leaf has the potential to be a prodigy if he keeps a good head on his shoulders.
yeah. So I think the situation right now is like I'm the professor and Vanity is the TA, so I get the
Right.
credit for all of his you know accomplishments. So yeah, he's friends with a lot of the, I guess, guys floating around the T2 scene. He interacts with them, talks to them, talks to mutual friends of theirs. So he actually knew about these guys. I had seen Zeppa and Leaf in FPL, but beyond like a preliminary talk about with Zeppa at the when I was first forming Chaos, actually, back in October last year,
Mm.
or like just before it, I guess. I was actually asking Zeppa like, what are your plans for a team? Like, are you willing to leave your team? And I was like looking into getting him, and for one reason or another, I just didn't follow up with him.
Mm.
I think he wasn't like, I think he didn't want to play because he thought I was going to be a certain way. This is why people don't want to play with me. Everyone's got this like I guess, prejudice about like they think I am FPL stream Josh, where I'm just gonna
Right.
be
Yeah.
yelling at people all the time and super difficult to work with, and tell people they can do this or can't do that or whatever, and like super strict and everything. And people are like, oh no, he's scary. I don't want to play with him. Like the amount of players that have come onto the team or like happen to talk to me, they're like, wait, I thought you were completely different because of how other people talked about you or because of your stream clips. And it's like, well, like fuck. So, anyways, um, yeah, like Zeppa mechanically was really good, but I had never spoken to him.
Yeah.
Like outside of this preliminary talk, I didn't know like, can he think for himself?
Mm.
If I tell him something, is he gonna like mentally shut down? If I say like, let's do a default, and we want to get you on Mirage into ladder room. Like, are you gonna, ask for flashes and ask for smokes and stuff certain ways, or do I have to like literally hold your hand the entire way through? Like with a lot of, players that are in FPL these days, and these players are not like that. If they see an opportunity, they're taking it. They're not sitting there asking for permission. They're like, they just did this. I'm taking the space because I see an opportunity. And especially in practice, it's like, if you do it and it fucks up, we can talk about it. We can say why it's not good or why it is good. And yeah, we should do that again. That's a good reaction. Let's add this. And right now, those players, Leaf, John G, and Zeppa, are all players that are just like, if they see something, an opportunity, they'll take it. They're confident in their abilities, so they're not going to shy away from something because they press tab and it's like someone on the scoreboard, like, oh, I'm going to piss my pants because I'm playing against Fallen. It's like, it's Fallen. I don't care. I see this opportunity. I'm taking it. I think we can go and fight them head on at Banana on Inferno every round because we're winning these fights. I don't give a fuck if Fur is just running down at us. I don't care who it is. I'm going to go peek them and kill them.
Yeah.
And I think a combination of like the confidence, good mechanical ability, and just the ability to kind of just make decisions on their own and not have to be micromanaged all the time. I think that's what makes this roster a lot stronger than, for example, Ghost roster, which I used to do. We were good in a lot of cases, but I could tell like when our brains weren't on, or when a default wouldn't work, I would start calling set plays a lot on Ghost. But on this team, I don't call set plays as much. It's like defaults with this goal in mind, or like if we're playing Mirage, like let's try to get this, and if they're doing this, let's go here together, and I'll lean in a certain direction. But for the most part, it's not. I'm not telling them like you need to go to this specific area and do this specific thing. It's go to this area and try to get this control at your own time, and after you have that, we can go into this, and we're able to pull that off.
So, look, you're talking about this fearlessness that your team has, and obviously you've won, like I say, a ton of the kind of B tier leagues, as you said, the ESEA season 34. You won the North American invite for the Winners League. You won, Mythic invite. There's a lot of people that believe that you're firmly like the best tier 2 team. You haven't quite broke into that world top 30 yet, but there's a realistic chance that that's
on the
going to
cusp.
happen. Yeah, you are on the threshold. But I got to just talk about these games in particular that I've seen you generate all these negative headlines as if you're some outrageous onliner underdogs that no one has heard of and no one should respect. And obviously that comes out of the Summit, qualifiers, where you played against MIBR and Team One, but mostly it was the MIBR game that turned heads, where you used a stand-in. I mean, you didn't even play in this game.
Right. Yeah.
And they were able to beat MIBR, and the reaction to that was just immediate cheating accusations being aimed at Leaf and Zeppa. I mean, in all my years of covering Counter-Strike, I haven't seen anything like that since the Fnatic tournament where that Danish team was beating everyone online, and clearly Fnatic didn't want them to win the tournament, but they did. And they even, you remember that with the Eindbazen situation where they brought the Dutchies back to fucking roll them? I haven't seen anything so ridiculous in terms.
That must have been like 2013 or 14 or something, right? Or
oh no, way back. It was almost 2011, maybe.
Oh, that was 1.6 then.
Oh no. That was Source. That was when that was before, because it was before the 2012 Copenhagen game send off. So it must have been like 2011. Anyway, fuck that. That's irrelevant.
Anyways.
Yeah, that's a Richard memory. That's not a Josh memory. But so I haven't seen a reaction like that in CSGO before, where a huge fan base is like, and huge streamers and huge players are basically saying these guys are blatantly cheating. So I just want to get your perspective on that, first of all, because realistically, I watched the game and then I watched the demo of the game, because obviously what you see in a broadcast and what you see in a demo are two different things. And there were maybe 2 instances I thought were bit weird.
Maybe.
But that was it.
So yeah, that situation was funny because like I wasn't playing, and then I started getting these messages about like, you know, clips of Leaf and like, are you sure your teammates aren't cheating? And people are linking me things, and like literally like 10 clips that people were sending me, I'm like, all of these are like super like easy to explain. Yeah, he's peeking this other common position in sight, and happenstance there's a person on the other side of the wall coming from the other site. If you watch anybody's game with X-ray on, you're going to get loads of those moments. The only one instance where I was just like, this is kind of weird, was when he was spraying at the overpass monster smoke, he was resetting his crosshair. But like, if you watch him spray anywhere, it's like that. But like at the time, I'm like, okay, this is the only one that's a little bit sketchy. So maybe like in the back of my mind, I'll keep this in mind. But then, because it was like the Go TV and the stream and everything, I couldn't even really see the CT there. The flick was nowhere near the guy. Like, I'm just like, there's no way. And people are like, this heaven thing, he's just like instantly flicks up the heaven. It's like, there's a flashbang that's traveling through the air. He turns from it. What's he gonna look at? Oh, where'd that flash come from? Behind me? Like, what is he gonna look at? Or like, it just doesn't make sense. And then people are saying like, oh yeah, all of Chaos is cheating. Coach MCE is cheating. Do you see this clip here? It's like, what the fuck's he gonna look at? Should he look at the ground the whole time as he's walking up? Like, what's he supposed to look at? Vanity's cheating. Zeppa's cheating. Like,
but it was, you know, think of the logic. So you guys cheated in, you know, a qualifier
just against Brazilians only.
Yeah, and against Brazilian teams, and then Gowles tweeted out as if it was somehow evidence. Like, who was it you lost to? Like fucking Bad News Bears or Triumph? I can't even remember.
We lost to Triumph like 16-2, but I don't know if that was the. I don't know if that was. Yeah, that was after us actually.
Yeah, well, he tweeted out. I can't even remember the screenshot.
Yeah.
But he tweeted it out, and it was like, look, see these guys. So again, that reinforced the idea. Well, why would you just cheat in this one game for a qualifier where you're playing with the standing for a coach?
Yeah.
And then you get to the tournament where you would have earned the points for the major, right? The theory being you cheated to get there, and then you go out in last place because you lose your games. So why not cheat there? You know, it's like there's no like,
because people don't understand like if you're gonna cheat, if I decide I'm gonna cheat tomorrow, you wouldn't fucking know. I could just say I've been DMing a lot. You wouldn't know, because the way that like a good cheater would cheat and get away with it is it's those, you use it in those clutch moments, like a swing round. Like, if we win this round, they're on double eco. Like, this round is worth 3. What your crosshair, I make it as close to you, your head, your body as possible, and then the cheat does the rest of the work. The extra like 1% in the aiming there. The second bullet on my spray would have hit your chest. It hits your head instead. So I get that kill in 2 bullets instead of 4 or 5 or something like that, and then I'm able to switch to the next target. Everything I do as a player, I'm still thinking for myself. I'm still positioning for myself. I still have to understand all these things and be a good player. It's just going to give me that 5% boost. It's going to help me, a kill that I wouldn't get today, or like, normally wouldn't get, or something like that. Like, I whiffed like a shot, or I missed the first bullet. I just get that. But it's not, I'm doing most of the aiming. I aim 99% of the way. It's just I need that extra 1%.
You mean you wouldn't use it as you were walking down long and have it like snap through a wall, or you wouldn't use it while tapping away meaninglessly on a smoke monster, and and like potentially give the game away? I'm very surprised, Josh. Frankly,
it's like people play with like a million sensitivity, and they just like never have to move their arm or wrist more than like a centimeter or something like that. It's like when you're spraying at something, you're pulling down. What do you do to get your mouse back? Do you like move it back up? But then people will be like, okay, so here's the other side of the equation, and an argument that people could make. What about Flusha? Because like, I was suspicious of Flusha, for example, and if people ask me on my stream, be like, yeah, it's the same. Or like, I would say, like,
I don't think the clip's
I think
terrible.
I think they're not comparable because like back then, like, you know, 100,000 people on a stream versus 1,000, for example. But I think like the situations are completely different as well. But I mean, that would be kind of like the only argument that you could make about that. But even then, it's like a whataboutism. It's like, okay, have we not learned from that? Like that was what, 6 years ago, 7 years ago now. It was the 2013 major event, right? Or 2000? No, it was Captivita 2014. I was
Yeah,
the fucking
40.
observer at it. Like, how do
Yeah.
I not know this? You know, I was the one that clicked the cheating report box on the stream. So it's like, have we not learned from these situations though? And like, how do we not know that, you know, what we say now has a bigger impact? But
Well, so how much impact did it have on the kids? Because I mean, remember, it wasn't just Leaf who was accused; he got the worst of it, and he's still getting the worst of it. But it was Zepper as well. They said both of them were. Well, I mean, you know, I've had people tell me, you know, and like I've got Brazilian friends, you know, in Counter Strike and that, and even some people I respect have said that they believe, you know, both of them cheated in those games, and it's like, you people are fucking so stupid. It makes me so sad. You know,
it's just, if you're gonna watch something with X-ray and by happenstance the crosshairs on a guy's head, download a demo of any random team, blank out the player names if you have to, and look at how many times a crosshair's on a guy's head through the wall. Just look at it. You can look at mine, and I'll be like literally hand off my mouse, and it'll just by accident happen.
So how did the guys take it? Because I guess it was uncharted territory. You know, you go from the high of having this like great win over MIBR into the kind of like, you know, just unbelievable nightmare of just having, you know, hundreds, if well thousands of people saying they're going to kill you. You know, stuff like
at the
that.
At the start, it wasn't good. It was like, it was like a hit on the confidence. It was just like, you know, especially if like, dude, I've been around the esports scene for what, like 12 years now, going on 13 years soon. And the amount of times people have threatened to like beat me up at LAN and like this or that, like come to this LAN and I'll beat you up, come to that LAN and I'll, you know, beat you up. And like you go there and like nothing happens. Like at this point, I'm just like, I don't care. And even if like I do happen to show up and you happen to kill me or something, it's just like, how fucking dumb are you? You know, it's like, I don't know if that's cynical of me to just be like, whatever. Like if I show up and you kill me at a LAN, like
I thought things
whatever.
were going
Like,
good, Josh.
no, they are, but it's like, I don't know. I've always been super cynical, and I think this conversation's for another time. But I think like, you know, Judgment Day might need to happen, and
but oh yeah, well, we'll talk about that in a separate interview. I think. Bible stories with Richard,
Terminator style. I don't know. But anyways, it's just like, to me, like I'm not really affected by it, but to them, you know, they're younger than I was when I first started coming out into the scene, and when I remember like the first few times people were like, "Are you coming to this Toronto LAN? You better fucking not. I'm gonna break your legs there. I'm gonna break your fingers, break your wrists or something like that." People said that about ESEA LAN, about, you know, like local Toronto LANs, about like ETS in Montreal, which is a 6-hour drive away. People said these things, and the first few times I'm like, holy shit! Like I don't want to show up there and have someone like, you know, fuck up my hands or something. But then after, you know, like I've seen LAN fights actually happen, and after I've seen like all these like threats to me, and the people like don't even show up, or they show up and they don't even like, they can't even give me eye contact, for example. It's like, okay, like I know this is all bullshit. I know you're not actually going to do anything.
I think it's a bit different when you're talking about, you know,
a death threat versus thousands of death threats versus like one, but like one personal one versus like of someone that I play against regularly versus some random guy on Twitter with some 0 followers and stuff like that are saying it. But I was 18 when I first got into, you know, competing, and then, you know, all these threats. I'm 20 years old. Leaf 16, for example. You know, so I could tell, okay, I feel like this. I'm scared. I don't want someone fucking up my shit when I'm 18, 19, 20 years old. This kid's getting way more threats about like literally killing him, And the threats are not going just to him. It's going to me. It's going to the whole team. It's going to our social media manager. It's going to like literally anybody that's like linked in our profiles. So if you go to my profile and you see like I link this person, they go to that person and start sending them threats and say like, tell Josh if he comes to Brazil, we do justice with our hands, or stick this up his, just like random shit. It's like, okay. So I can definitely understand um, that it's super fucking scary. But I think after the first like initial week wave of this stuff, it's like you kind of start to get desensitized to it if it's like every day and stuff.
Mm.
And I think it almost starts becoming like a joke or a meme. Like obviously there's it's still a degree of seriousness. It's like you're literally threatening to kill somebody.
Well,
What the fuck is wrong with you?
it gets more serious, right? When you consider, I mean, not to be disrespectful, I think it's unlikely you guys qualify for the major.
What the fuck? How could you say that?
I know I'm such an asshole. But it's still mathematically possible. I think at this point,
If there's one more event. If we
Yeah.
were to win this event, yeah, because we're only like 1,000 points behind, like top 5, right?
Yeah. So the problem you've then got is, let's say you win that event and you qualify for the major. Well, if I was Leaf's parents, I wouldn't let him go.
Oh, I would definitely wouldn't let him go if I'm his dad. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, especially like if you have like it's a meme at this point, but like if I'm a boomer, then what's Leaf's parents, right?
Yeah.
If we're gonna call him a boomer, it's like, yeah, like when I was getting into this stuff, like my mom was saying shit like, oh, you can't talk to people on the internet, like they're all pedophiles and stuff like that. They're gonna
Yeah.
like lure you in and do so, and it's like,
And that
what
only
are you?
applied to half of them.
Well, if you're in the Smash community, it might be
Yeah. It's yeah,
wrong chat room.
yeah, it was. I mean, yeah, like it's frightening. But the difference is obviously like it's one thing to be like dealing with creeps on the internet. Nothing to walk into a stadium where many of those people who've been threatening you online are going to be. And even if they weren't, even if there wasn't a single person there, keep in mind, Fallen has said he's a cheater, a blatant aim locker. His words. And Gowles has obviously dedicated portions of his stream, hasn't apologized for the allegation, by the way. You know, apologized. Well, it wasn't even a real apology. So,
Well, I don't know if I should say this, but Fallen DM'd me the same day where he's like, kind of, it felt like he was about to apologize to Leaf, to like through me, but then he starts like doubling down on his accusation, asking me like, have I played in the same room as him, and like how sure am I that he's not cheating? I'm just like, what? This is not real right now, is it? And I
yeah.
just didn't know if I like wanted to like say this publicly, but that's kind of fucked up. Like, what? You're still like doubling down on this?
Well, no, but it's the thing. They all really believe it. They all really believe it. You must understand this. This wasn't frustration boiling over. They have utterly convinced themselves because of their egos and narcissism across the board, and the fact that they have people like Gowler is absolutely pandering to them. That the only way they could have lost to Chaos is if 2 people on your team, at least, were cheating the entire time against them. They simply can't conceive that maybe they're just not as good as they used to be.
Yeah, but like we beat them on well, yeah, it's only me and Vanity at this point that are remaining, but we pretty much delivered the dick to them on LAN. But I saw that the clip that you linked with the SK Fallen Cobblestone flicks with the op thing.
Yeah,
I didn't remember that video. If
yo,
I had
those
seen it,
guys, those guys had way worse clips than Lee.
That looked fucking fishy.
Yeah.
Anything that you could link of from the CSSummit with like Leaf or Zep or MCE, this was mind-boggling.
Yeah, dude, people forget all the allegations that came in against Fallen, which is where we get the Wallen memes from.
Yeah.
In particular, some of the performances he had on Cobblestone around about that time. People forget Taco was like terrible, was about to get kicked.
Taco.
Yeah, then he became Vaco because he suddenly was like one of the best players in the world, and it couldn't possibly be hard work or form or a change in position. He must be cheating. And that's why it's disappointing, because I would have thought those guys would know more about running that gauntlet of cheating accusations. Don't even get me started on Cold Zero. Kid comes from nowhere and is the best player in the world for 2 years back to back, and Fallen goes, yeah, he's just some kid I saw on a server or something. Everyone was accusing him. There were a ton of clips of him. You know, people were. I remember being on a like some cheating forum, and people were saying that jumping AWP shot, the famous one, absolute
against
against Liquid, absolute 100% guaranteed cheats. Like none of these. This is just the voices in your head at this point. So it was like mega disappointing to see them like basically dogpile a 16-year-old kid. Now, obviously, if it turns out he was cheating the whole time, we look like dickheads. But I'm kidding.
Oh well. Well, I've got there's Wallen, there's Vaco. I think Leaf should be Leaf SP.
Yeah, that's pretty good actually. I like it.
Yeah,
I like it. But obviously, it hasn't stopped there. I mean, the hate that's coming Chaos's way from the MIBR fans is flared up again because there was people on. I think John G was streaming. And someone came in and was like abusive to him,
winding him up. Yeah.
And he just simply said, "Listen, we beat your team with a stand-in. maybe your team is shit." And this is like, and no, but so I was like seeing stuff on my timeline. Now I've pretty much got every insane Brazilian account blocked on Twitter. I just won't engage with it anymore.
How dare you?
It's so stupid. I've been called xenophobic for that. Like if they tweet at me, Corral, kill yourself, and I block them, they go, God, look how xenophobic that guy is. It's like, no, I just don't want to hear it. But I couldn't believe it. It was happening again. And I saw big accounts and big streamer accounts again saying, well, how dare he say this? And why would people like Richard Lewis criticize Gaules for calling a kid a cheater and getting him death threats? Why won't Richard call out this guy saying this? And all he said was, we beat you because you were bad. That's not the same as accusing someone of being a cheater, is it? It's like,
he should make, dude, this is the ultimate Chad move. He should make like a Gaules-style apology about his comments. Holy fuck. That would be amazing.
Go work on it. Get your social media guy on it right now. But
you need to look at this Imager link I linked you in the DM.
I saw it, mate. Look, so no, but back to being serious for just a moment.
Okay.
Remember, you guys can still qualify. So hypothetically, if you did qualify, what happens?
I wouldn't let Leaf go. Oh, sorry. Like if I was Leaf's parents, I wouldn't let him go. I don't think my teammates would feel particularly safe. Which is like I went to ESL1 Belo Horizonte with Ghost. So it was like 2018 June. I had a pleasant time. It looked like if I went out, there were parts of it's like good street, bad street, good street, bad street, kind of like that Dennis Leary joke about New York.
Yeah,
where it's like
does sound like New York.
Yeah, but it's like we're in the hotel, we're transported from the hotel to the media, back to the hotel, the group stage is at the hotel, and then you go to the arena where you're transported there, and like should be security and everything, and the only reason why I left the hotel was because I wanted to go to the grocery store. We wanted to get bottles of water. We wanted to go and kind of like not just sit in the hotel the whole time.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed my time in Brazil. I thought the fans were really funny when we did the signing session and stuff. I had one guy that was like literally trying to get me to audit. Like we didn't have enough time at the signing session.
Oh, the guy literally under the door.
Yeah, he slid under the door. Exactly. Yeah, he like followed us all around the arena. Like every like next entrance he get to, he was there. He's like sticking his arm through. Still, and it was hilarious. I had a great time. But like you hear these stories about Hiko. You hear these stories about what happened with the Space Soldiers guys.
Yeah.
And you hear these stories about things that happen in American lands where this guy shows up with a gun and shoots this guy because he loses this match, or this other security flaw, and these people had no security, and these people like they had security, but like they didn't even check your bags. It's like, what if? Like, what do you need to make this happen? Like, how hard is it to find out what hotel you're hosting all these players at, and just hang out in the lobby and wait? Like, how hard is it?
But this is what I mean. So it's like, now the situation is this. I mean, it must impact on your focus for these upcoming games that this has happened, because, if you go to that autumn, event and like you say, win it, If this problem hadn't happened, you'd be looking forward to going to the major,
Oh yeah.
a landmark moment for the organization, for the players. It'd be fantastic. But now you know that even if you win and were to qualify, chances are you're going to have to try and arrange getting stand-ins, or you're just not going to go at all, and it's all in vain. So why try,
Yeah, I think that's definitely something that's going to lurk at the back of their minds. Like, obviously, there's nothing I can do. I'm not even going to be a part of it. Yeah. So it's like, that's going to be on them. Obviously, like, I could tell performance-wise, even in the matches the week into after like the initial, I guess, threats started happening after the initial cheat accusation, it was like, yeah, I could tell like these guys are kind of shook about it and they haven't, fully recovered. So maybe that happens again in the qualifier, and maybe they don't perform as well, or maybe they perform really well because they just want to like slam everyone and then make a power move statement to say like, we qualified, you didn't. So first of all, fuck you, and second of all, yeah, we're not gonna go. That would be the ultimate. If I was in their position, I would do that. But I'm a cynical 30-year-old, so.
Yeah, I was going to say you're a cynical 30-year-old begging for the apocalypse. Look, so as I expected, the hour has flown by, and I know you've got practice, so I don't want you to be late. So I'll get to the last question, and that is obviously, Valor. You've got this team. We're going through the major cycle. You can't play at the majors. You've already alluded to this. You don't really know what Valve's going to do, whether it's like, it's probably not going to change. And you've said you want to win big trophies. You believe you have a chance to do it in Valorant. So realistically, is there a chance that, whatever happens with this team, before you get to true boomer age and have to actually retire, you could be tempted to cross to the other aisle and go play that game just to see if you can win something big?
I mean, Force is 33, right? I
got
a few more years.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think the cutoff, I think 34 is the reasonable cutoff, I think.
Okay, so to start, I think age isn't really like that big of a factor. What becomes a factor is the fact that you kind of need to settle down. Maybe you lose the hunger, but like you can't afford to travel. You're trying to build a family, stuff like that. That's the real thing that like really hinders someone.
Yeah, exactly.
At an old age, especially if they're not making money from it, and you can't start at an old age because how are you, like, you need to live to get to 30 years old before you start playing CS. Like, if you're a kid of like a multi-millionaire and you literally haven't done anything in your life, then yeah, if you start playing when you're 30, you could probably make it with enough time and shit. So age, I don't think is as big a deal as people make it out to be, but I guess within the next 6 months to a year, a switch to Valorant, there's at least like a 50% chance, I'd say.
50%? High.
At least, yeah, I'd say like it's pretty up in the air because again, it's, if my teammates are good, this is the situation that's going to end up ultimately happening. My teammates are good enough to either get picked up by like EG, Liquid, 100 Thieves, Complexity, Cloud9, Genji, etc. And they're just going to, pluck them out of the team. We have to grab another tier 2 player that is kind of unknown and get them up to speed, which is like a constant rebuilding process. It's not like you're switching out one experienced player for another. You're switching out an experienced player for an inexperienced player, getting them to be experienced, and they're gone, right?
Yeah.
Or they, as a group, are good enough to get to the next stage, and they're like, well, we're at this point where we also want to get our names in game and get the stickers and get the sticker revenue and play at all these tournaments without having to worry about like, oh, that's a road to whatever major. We need a stand-in for this. We're going to use our coach for this one, or we're going to try to get this player. There's going to become a time where they're like, we just want to fucking get a roster of 5 people and just play all the events all the time and not deal with this. So one or the other, it's going to be not enjoyable for them because they're always getting stand-ins for me, or it's not going to be enjoyable for me because I'm always having to find replacements for them. And that's not like a long-term strategy, really. It's not good for the org. It's not good for like all the players on the team, and it's not good for someone that's at my age. I just want to win shit at this time because while age isn't a factor, there is a clock. ticking down. And it's not like I have 10 more years. It's I have maybe like 3, for example. And if I only have 3 more years, I don't want to be, in a perpetual state of rebuilding teams. I want to fucking win something. And if the options are limited in Counter-Strike because of that, then Valorant is close enough to Counter-Strike that I could be like, okay, I can switch, I can still be relatively good, I can still win something, and scratch that itch before I finally hang it up.
Okay. Well, look, I hope you stay in Counter-Strike, but I'll definitely follow you if you go over to Valorant, and I think you'll do very well there. I mean, I agree with you. I think it's a bit of a shit show at the moment. Been following some of these smaller tournaments and invitationals that have been going on, and it's just like there is no continuity in results. All the teams are winning. There's just big names, big brands, basically, but no true, consistently great team. And I think having somebody like you over there, you could probably build something like that. But anyway, obviously we're going to have all your stuff on the screen, but are you on a regular streaming schedule? Are people going to be able to catch you streaming FPL? Are you doing anything exciting coming up?
Not so much. I think like during the player break, I did have a little bit more time for streaming, but now that I've got practice starting back up and IRL stuff and, trying to get some Valorant games in on the side, my streaming schedule is limited. I play like maybe 2-3 hours a night of FPL, maybe, and that'll be like 5 days a week. It's really too inconsistent to give a shout out about that. If you want to see when I go live, click a follow button and just keep your eyes out. I don't tweet. Like tweet 25% of the time I go live. I'm not a streamer.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look,
No big plans.
Great to catch up as always, man. We should talk more often. I wish my life wasn't crazy and yours wasn't crazier. But we'll figure it out, I'm sure. And to everyone listening to the interview, obviously that is Josh. Make sure that you go and show him some support in the face of unremitting hate from certain fan bases. I'm sure he'll appreciate the perk. And of course, make sure if you like this interview that you like and subscribe, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, do all that stuff for the algorithm. The Rivalry channel creates some great content and definitely deserves more attention. So thanks very much for watching, and we will see you next time.